If you like classical architecture and tortured screaming, you're in luck.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the first episode of building Naboo in LEGO. So in the last episode we went through my plans for this MOC and what it will be at the end hopefully, and in this video we will be starting on the hallway. So as you can see, I've started building the outlines of the sort of like the walls and the rooms. So I've done this just to see the sort of size of it all, and also to work out what base plate arrangement I want to use, as the whole MOC won't be just like a simple rectangle. It's got this skinny bit in the middle, and then it's got parts that kind of come out in weird areas, so it's a bit of an odd shape. So for example, this hallway area is 3 base plates long, but the hangar area will be a total of about 5 base plates long. On one end it will just stick out by this little bit here, but then on the other end it will be 2 base plates further along this way. And another thing I've done is I have built the first real life version of the Naboo Starfighter. So this is the Naboo Starfighter that I made. So I had previously created this on Studio, but I was not sure if it would work in real life or not. So I made it out of just the pieces I had, which is why it's not just yellow and grey. The main concern I had was the connection between the engine and the main cockpit area, as it's only connected by this one stud here on this 2x2 inverted tile, and it is strong enough, luckily. And the other change I had to make was I had to switch out the 2x2 round brick for 3 plates, since the axle that goes between the 2 sides wasn't able to connect into this cone piece, as there's no axle connected there. So by connecting the 2x2 plate, the 2x2 round plate there, that then has the axle hole for it to connect properly, instead of just sitting in there. So now that I know this design works, I will be able to order the pieces for those, and I will also start ordering all the pieces for the rest of the hangar area. So now that I know the base plate layout of this area, and I've also started working on the base plate layout of this other sort of hangar area, that gap there is that gap there, so it'll connect to there, but there's just not enough room on the table for everything. And now that I know the base plate layout, I can start building this hallway section. So this area here is the hallway, and from here is the hangar, and that's where the Naboo Starfighters would sit, so there'd be 1, 2, 3. But this whole area will have to be raised up to this height, since this sort of area connects on to here. So let's get into the build. Alright, here's a bit of an update of where I've gotten up to. So I've built up this sort of platform area, which is 11 bricks high. So it's got 10 of these 2x2 bricks with 1 2x4 brick on top, and then all these 6x6 plates. So there's one of these columns at each sort of intersection of the 6x6 plates. So now that we've built this foundation, I'm going to start building all of the floor work on the top. So I didn't do a time lapse of this section since I thought it'd be a bit boring just watching me build stacks of these. So we'll do a time lapse for the next section though, since it'll be a bit more interesting. So let's get into that. Alright, so I've made a bit more progress now. So I've only done up to this bit, which is the middle of the hallway, as I don't have enough 2x2 bricks to build these columns underneath for the support. So I've ordered a whole bunch more of these, and hopefully they'll arrive soon. But for now, we'll get started on this side. So now I've completely finished off the foundation sort of section, and there's these gaps in the middle, because on these main sections it's just going to be like tiles placed down, but in these middle areas they're going to be plates and tiles on the sides. So when a plate or tile is placed on the side like that, and there's a tile, so there's a tile there, and then when you place a tile like that on its side, it's the same level as the tile, it's just normal. So that way I can use a snot technique in this middle area and still have the tiles flat. So now that we've finished the actual foundation, we can get into the design, which I have here on my laptop. So let's get into another time lapse. Alright, so here's the progress I've made so far. So I've made a bit of progress on this wall here. And I've started to do this floor design here. I've run into a little bit of trouble though, as on the program I was supposed to be able to fit 6 tiles between this light grey piece and this light grey piece here. But unfortunately I cannot actually do that. So somehow in the program I've managed to fit in more than I should be able to in real life. So I've had to make some adjustments. And I also forgot to leave spaces for the brackets to go down. So in some parts there's about a half plate width gap. So to fill in that gap I've put little brackets in like I have here. But I forgot to leave room for those to stick downwards. And I wasn't planning on having one here, since it was supposed to just be filled in with tiles. But since I have to use a bracket, I'll have to make room underneath for that. So underneath at the moment it's just plates, so I'll have to make a little gap there for this to basically stick down that way into there. So we'll get into that next. And there we go, we have a little hole there, so the bracket bit there can just fit into the hole, and it just sort of fits in there nicely, and the bricks just lay on top like that, so it all connects smoothly together. So now I'll work on the next section of this floor design, and I'll have to work out where the gaps go and make room for those. So let's get into another time lapse. Right, and here we have the floor design finished, more or less, for this little section. So you can see there are two little gaps in these little corners here, and unfortunately I don't think there's much I can really do about them, but that's okay, they're fairly small. So now what I've got to do is make some gaps underneath, so that way these brackets can go downwards and you won't be able to see the top of them. And while I'm doing that, I will also put the plates underneath as grey, as you can see through the gaps, a bit of tan in there. Alright, and there we have it. So now all the brackets and these 1x2 plates with the rails are now facing downwards, so they're not sticking up anymore. So all up, there's only those two little gaps left. There's a couple of like little gaps between the rails, but they don't really matter too much. And if you look between the little gaps, I've put light grey plates underneath, just to sort of fill it in a bit better, because if there were tan plates underneath, they would sort of stand out a bit more. So now that we've done that, we can get back into the floor design. So I think I'll do this area next. So this area has a similar sort of pattern as here. So it's all the sideways plates here. And then the rest of it is just tiles, and there's a wall here. And this here is where the staircase is that goes up to the second level that meets up over here. So let's get into this section next. here's a bit of a progress update. So I've started on this wall on this side. So I've basically finished in that corner. I've just got to fill in the 2 gaps on either side of here. But I've been using these 1x2 brackets with like the 2x2 bit. But I need the inverted version here because for the hanger area there's going to be a part that sort of comes around here and it's going to go right up against there. So if I was to use these normal sort of 1x2 brackets, the studs would stick out and you wouldn't be able to put a brick on there. But by having the inverted version, you can then have that in the same position and then it'll be flat and then you can put the bricks flush against them. So I don't have enough of those to do along here, so I'll leave that for now and then I'll continue working around this side, filling in this area here, and then we'll continue along here and do this upper level section. So let's get into another time lapse. So here's another progress update. So you can see I've made more progress on this part of the wall here, and I've also started in this sort of middle wall bit here. One of the things I hadn't quite decided when I designed this on my laptop was how I was going to do this little wall section here. Because as you can see, the design is a little bit different to the other ones. So the difference being that these grey lines that run up and down here are about half as thick on these ones as they are on this one, because these ones use brackets that kind of stick into the wall. So you can see they kind of go in there. But for this one, this wall is only supposed to be about 1 brick wide, so I can't use brackets that stick out that far. So what I had to do is make more or less the same pattern there in 1 brick wide and then tile the other side. And I wasn't sure how I would make the tiles sort of go into the jumper plates here for the stairs. So what I ended up doing was, instead of putting the bricks like on the studs, I've offset it by 1 plate that way. So you can see if you look at the studs on the ground compared to the brick there, you can see that it's slightly offset. So that way, this tiles that are on the wall here will go to the side of the jumper plates, as you can see down there. So the way this wall is connected is that there's some studs showing on this grey section down here. So if I pull that out, you can see that these are on their sides, and that has the two bricks with the studs on the sides, which then connects into the wall. So now I'll continue the rest of this wall along here, and then we will work on this sort of next layer area. So let's get into another time lapse. Alright, here's a final look at where I've gotten up to in this build update. So I've built these doorways on either side. Some of the parts aren't the right colour as I don't have them in black. As you can see, a bit of sand green and dark tan in there. So I'll have to order those parts. So I just need to build these walls up another brick high to about here. And then that'll be where the next platform is. Made a bit more progress on the wall on this side. So I think I've made good progress for this update. Hopefully the next update will be out next weekend, and I will have finished this sort of top layer area, and then that'll more or less be this half of the hallway done, and then we can move on to the second half. When I get on to doing the second half, I'll go more in depth of the sort of build techniques I've used on like all these structures. As for the first half, I've just been sort of doing a bit of trial and error sort of runs, so I think it'll be easier to show you how everything works in the second half when I sort of figured it all out. So thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for part 2, and I will see you in the next one.